wrong out here. But when you know better, you do better. Um, but once I got to that point, it was like, okay, this is not going to be as bad as I thought, but it's a journey and it's a transition. So have you guys felt like that? Have you been on the lock journey and realized you messed up and you felt like, dang, how can I fix this? Can I fix this? How, who, what, where, all that good stuff? I know, me too. And again, this is why I had to admit to myself, when you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. But you gotta admit it. You gotta push up, do better, move around better, and not stay stuck and not stay complacent and not whine because nobody cares about you. So good morning, guys. Yes, in this video, I'm gonna be discussing how I fix those problem areas. If you caught my last live and my few shorts from this week, you already know that I've been discussing with you guys lock issues, lock problems, lock concerns. And if you know, you know. To be more specific and concrete and context based, I had to acknowledge my wrongs. And I had to figure out how to fix that. And we fix things by admitting things, finding a plan and solution, and we move forward. So how did I fix the issue? I'm gonna jump right in it. But before I jump right into it, gotta just tell you a little story. So, got my locks done in 2020. Around 2021, 2022, I started to notice some things I didn't notice before. And it made me think, dang, is my hair supposed to look like this? Why is it looking like this? So many people told me it's great to do a big chop before you do your dreadlocks. Didn't know that, didn't pay attention to that. Because again, for me, I didn't want to hear people tell me what to do, what not to do. I didn't want to restart the journey and the progress. And I felt like I was on my way and I wasn't ready to restart. But if you know, you know. Boy, I should have listened, but I didn't. And here are the sacrifices now because I ain't listened. So, what are the sacrifices? Find out the tips and tricks of the trade to, excuse me, do better with your styles and your hair before it's too late and damage occurs. So, what does that even mean? It means doing your research before you start. And why do you research before you start? Because you don't want to be working backwards. You don't want to be working extra hard for no reason. You don't want to feel like, oh my goodness, I gotta start all over again. I messed up. And that was my feelings. But I learned this good takeaway right here. What is the good takeaway? The takeaway is you can fix anything. It may take some time and patience, different attitudes, different, energies and attitudes to get it done, but almost everything is fixable. And what's not fixable, you learn a lesson for the next day, for the next time. So what does all of that mean? Nothing is an end of the world situation. Even when it feels bad, we can tie it up and make it make sense again. What am I talking about right now? Again, bring you back full circle. We're talking about how I fix some problem locks, even though I didn't get the big chop. And I push forward on the lock journey. You guys seen how long my lock hair is, but the length means nothing. It's about the progress in the journey. So I got to a point where I started seeing things I couldn't fix. I discussed it with my loctician. My loctician gave me a lot of advice, a lot of tea, told me a lot of tips. And what she pretty much told me is the real deal breaker. What is the real deal breaker? I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to change or fix things. I had to deal with things where they were and move forward. So again, regarding not doing that big chop, since I didn't do the big chop and my hair started locking, I was really moving forward, there was nothing I can do about that but take accountability and take ownership. And what does that mean? Knowing that A, I can start all over again from scratch, or B, roll with the punches. So what is start all over again from scratch? Meaning comb out the hair, cut off the locks, style it all over again from day one on the strongest tresses and strands that I was working with. Number two, don't do anything. And since you're not doing anything, just watch and see how the hair transitions and develops without you touching it and see what you may need to do later on as it does what it does. Now, honestly speaking, I did the second part. I waited to see what it was going to do, and I figured it out later because I didn't want to start all over. And again, I had a realistic conversation with myself. So in this realistic conversation, I learned where I messed up. And where I messed up was, again, going back to yesterday, not doing the research to know what's going to happen if you don't do the big chop. Not doing the research to know what's going to happen if you don't start from the strongest strands and testers and tresses and follicles of lock. That's where I fell. That's where I was in that bracket, that barrier. I was there with it. And because I was there with it, already insecure, already having a big head, big forehead, not being super confident, I didn't feel I could pull that off. And because I didn't feel like I could pull that off, I honestly, respectively kept it as in, I'm gonna see what happens. If something bad happens, I'll deal with it then. Something good happens, I'll be satisfied. But I am not gonna let this break me. I am not gonna stress out over this because things happen all the time. You do good things and still bad things will happen. So I didn't lose my cool. And when I realized what happened, I took initiative. So what does it mean that I took initiative? What I'm pretty much saying in plain English is I took accountability and knew I had to just say it is what it is. My mindset had to be different. My attitude had to be different. The way I think had to be different. And it wasn't. I was just excited to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it. I wasn't concerned about all the tips and tricks and the perfect way to do things. I wasn't. I just jumped out the window and went for the gusto. And I cried afterwards because I'm like, oh my gosh. So the key takeaway of the story, guys, is I learned what happened when you don't pay attention. I learned what happened when you don't stay focused. I learned what happened when you don't do your research. I learned what happened when you don't take things seriously. I learned what happened when you can't just admit anyone did anything wrong but yourself. So the moral to the story is I learned to take accountability for myself. I learned to take accountability for the decisions I made. I learned to take accountability and try to move forward what I can do at the moment versus backsliding and overthinking and worrying about shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and oh my gosh, what next? What how? I just stopped doing all of that. And I just realized at the end of the day, it could be worse. I could be bald headed out here. I could be, having some thick, coily, tough hair that couldn't even lock. I could have been in a worse situation, but I wasn't. Because I wasn't, I'm going to be grateful and I'm going to be humble and I'm going to appreciate where I'm at and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And that helped me. That is how I fixed the issue. I didn't buy anything. I didn't go anywhere. No one fixed me immediately. None of that happened. I took accountability and realized this is what happens when you drop the ball and you don't do what you're supposed to do. And because I dropped the ball and do what I was supposed to do, that was my end result. So the key takeaway was I had to realize it was my fault. It's what happens when you don't do better, when you know better. And I had to realize there's ways around things. It ain't the worst in the world. It ain't the end. And honestly speaking, feel like I still look beautiful. Feel like I still look pretty, despite my mistakes, despite any issues I made. But honestly speaking, it was hard because I wanted to be perfect from day one. I want everything to go the way it's supposed to go, and it didn't. So I honestly just felt like mistakes happen all the time. You can't fix every mistake. Good morning, y'all. How y'all doing? You can't fix every mistake. You just can't. Mistakes are made to teach you a lesson, and the lesson pretty much is no problem. Thank you so much. The stream is about to be ending soon too anyway. So the whole journey here is, but thank you for following and liking and subscribing and being here with me. Thank you so much. But the trick of the trade here, honestly speaking, is your mindset. You are in a great mindset when you're doing things the right way. Nothing else matters. So peace, y'all. Have a great day. Have a good morning. Good seeing you guys. Thank you for coming through. And I'll chat with y'all later.